Good morning, it's Henry at Mowers and Blowers. It's Sunday and it's about 65 degrees at 9 a.m. Can you believe that? It's mid-January. What the hell's going on, you know? Guess I'm not going to be selling any snow blowers anytime soon, you know what I mean? So while today I was going to prop this up onto its service position and check out the drive system, you know, how sometimes it gets, when you engage the drive, it gets caught up and it won't disengage, you know, and because it doesn't disengage, it wants to shut off the engine because of the load, you know. Also, the carburetor needs to be cleaned for it to help that, you know. However, some nut wanted to buy the whole thing just for the engine, you know, and he's going to buy it without the electric start because he doesn't need it. I could always use the electric start. So I'm going to figure out whether or not this Yahoo is going to come and get it today, so I'm not going to work on this today. I've got my old Monster Rehab refrigerator, barrel refrigerator out because some nut wants to buy that too, you know. I've had it in my garage for like 10 years, you know. It works good. You guys may not know this, but at one period of my life, I actually owned a vending machine business of my own. I had about 8 vending machines in different locations around my neighborhood, but it got to be too much trouble for what it's worth, you know, moving the machines back and forth, negotiating contracts with different proprietors, you know. I had it in bowling alleys, I had it in a karate studio, a couple of karate studios, tattoo parlor, you know, these places, you know, and it's a pain in the ass because you got to drive all over the place to collect the money, and sometimes the money is not there, you know what I mean? And it's a lot of trouble to lift them and bring them there and maintain them. It's a pain in the butt, which is, it's difficult, you know, but it was fun, you know, and I got all those machines for free. Now, to start a business from nothing and using no money, that's worth it, right? But if you had to actually go and spend money on that stuff, it's not worth it. But anyway, I had since sold all my machines, sold all my accounts and stuff, and, you know, made some good money off of that. And this was just one of the perks that I had, and I thought it was cool, so I kept it for a while. But I don't really use it, you know what I mean? I used to put like Gatorade and water in there because in the summertime my son and daughter would be playing sports, you know, baseball, soccer, whatever it was. But my son's off to college, my daughter doesn't need that much, you know, Gatorade, you know. So I figured I'd just take it out and plug it in and see if it works before I sell it. So because I'm not working on this, I'm going to start work on, that's right, my Craftsman 20.5 Briggs opposed twin engine. It has 2 blown connecting rods, or so I think there are 2. Maybe it's just 1, but I'm not sure until I tear it apart. And that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to tear apart this engine to see the carnage inside. Whether or not this engine is going to be salvageable by simply just purchasing 1 or 2 connecting rods and whatever was damaged inside, and getting this 20.5 opposed twin engine running again. First thing we're going to do is remove the hood. Hood's very easy to remove. It's just a tilt. I want to see if the lights are connected, and they're not. This hood needs a lot of work too, obviously. Plenum. It's really the air isolator. So I'm giving you guys a good look here. This is the way it came. I haven't touched it at all. When I got it, I asked the guy, hey, where's the engine cover that belongs on here? He said, oh, I haven't had that since I got it. And I says, oh, really? He goes, yeah, does that make a difference? I says, well, why would they make it if it doesn't make any difference, you know? So the air cover, the engine cover, it isolates the air that this blower fan is creating, right, when the engine's running. And in turn, it circulates the air to the heads. The heads have these metal fins on it so that it cools it properly. It's an aluminum block, so you don't want the aluminum block to warp and, you know, be too hot because it'll overheat. So it'll overheat prematurely if you don't have that cover on. So I have a feeling that he was running this thing for a long time, for most of its life, you know, and something gave way, you know, and it may have caused why the engine blew in the first place. So the reason why the guys got rid of it, and I got it for free, that's right, free, the whole thing was free. He said that he was using it and it just stopped. And if you turn it, you can see that, you can feel that there are things clanking around, and you can't turn it all the way. Well, actually you can. But then it stops, see? So it's possible that, you know, it seems too easy to turn, so I have a feeling that both connecting rods are gone. But the way the opposed twin engines are built, it's such a great engine, you know. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 4 engine mounting bolts off, right? And basically take apart the throttle and choke cables so that nothing's attached to this thing, as well as the wiring harness, the electrical. Disconnect all that stuff so it's loose off of the frame. Then I'm going to rotate the engine, right, from the back to the front, right, or to the side. And what's unique about this engine is that there's a rectangular rear visual access plate that you can basically just remove 4 screws and the gasket around it, and you can see everything in this engine. So you can really do a visual inspection about what's busted and what isn't. You could actually fix things from there without taking the sump cover off. It's very convenient. I mean, not really convenient, but more convenient than a regular one. You don't have to take the engine off, flip it upside down, and take the sump cover off to get it all apart, you know. So I'm going to work on getting the engine bolts off and disconnecting the sides. I'm on the left side of the machine right now, and I'm just disconnecting the solenoid power wire to the starter. Have to use 2 because you don't want to turn the inner screw along with the outer screw, because it'll ruin the you'll pull out the wires from the innards of the starter. So you gotta hold the inner nut to loosen the outer nut. Disconnect the wire as such. Replace the nut back on here so you don't lose it. So now that's one part that's disconnected. Now we've got the choke and throttle cables that are attached to the front of the machine. I'm taking a magic marker and I'm marking where this was attached, and I'm also marking which hole it was on, so that when I do replace the thing, I'll know which hole it was. So I'm just making a mark to indicate which hole it came out of and about where it was sitting for it to be running right. Because remember, according to the guy's story, and you'll have to go by the story, right, is that he was running it and then it just blew. So when you go by that story, it kind of helps you put together a puzzle that the carburetor may not be bad, right, if it was running. And so maybe you don't have to clean the carb, you know. So it's a 5/16 bolt or screw that holds the throttle and choke cables in place. So once you loosen it, you can freely move the cables with the Z-bend and disconnect it. This was the choke cable, and here I'm going to loosen the bolt for the, and this is difficult to do because it's kind of stripped. Alright, I think I got it.
I don't want to dismantle this completely, so that's why I'm doing it this way. If I wanted to get more clearance, I could remove the air cleaner base and cover. But since I think maybe the carburetor might be clean, since he was running it, you know, I wasn't going to mess with it. But I'll probably end up taking it apart anyway later. But remember, all I want to do right now is just do an inspection as to exactly what's wrong with this. So now I got this loose. And there's the throttle cable disconnected. So now we got the starter and the throttle cable disconnected. This is the fuel line to the fuel pump. We have to take this apart as well. Let's get some pliers to loosen up the hose clamp and just remove it. Actually, it might be easier if I remove it from here so I can pull this thing apart over here. There we go. So now the fuel, starter, throttle cables are all disconnected off the machine. I'm going to get to work on loosening the 4 engine mounting. So it wasn't too bad. Moved 2 engine mounting bolts from the right side, front and rear. The rear one is a pain in the butt because it's got the tension idler pulley for the brake on this. So you have to depress the brake to move the pulley out of the way so you can stick a socket to get this bolt out. These are 9/16, right? And then because the connecting rods are busted, you can turn this flywheel until it doesn't turn anymore, and then get a 5/8 socket to get the crankshaft bolt off the mower deck and drive pulley. So that's off too. I'm going to work on the left side of the mounting bolts now. I've successfully removed all 4 engine mounting bolts. The crankshaft pulley is also disconnected. I'm going to take off this heat shield. Because the way this works is that the 2 exhaust pipes go right into the muffler with the 2 openings, right? It's usually extremely difficult to remove exhaust pipes from the exhaust manifolds and the head because it's been on there for so long. The heat, weather, heat, back and forth, back and forth. It's just really tough to get it off. It's so much easier if you just lift it out of these 2 holes. The way the pipes go in, they're not welded or secured in there anyway, other than the fact that the weight of the engine goes into the holes, and that creates the seal for the muffler. So ideally, I could just lift this up, and it should come right out of the holes, like such. See? But engine's free. It just has to be free from the crankshaft pulley on the bottom. As you can see, it's looped around. There it is. So I'm just going to move this to its side. Oh, I have to disconnect the wiring harness real quick. I don't know if there's such thing as real quick. And of course I broke this screwdriver. It's really not that difficult. It's not fun, but it's not difficult. Okay, wiring harness is free. Now I should be able to tilt this, not tilt, but rotate the engine to its side here. The pipe's facing this way so we can at least see the plate, which we can. So I actually moved it and flipped it completely backwards so that now the back of the engine is facing forward. I wanted to do that because I needed to get access to the drain plug. The reason why is because when I remove this cover, it could be very messy, and I'm gonna drain the oil in here anyway, you know. We have to drain the oil anyway, so might as well do it now so that we don't create a mess later. It'll probably be a mess anyway, but we'll let that oil drip out. While the oil is dripping out, let's remove the bolts to the rear access cover. Half-inch. You know what? It's going to be messy. I know it is. Just got to cover it up a little bit. Let's see if I can remove this without destroying the gasket. Oh boy. Knew it was going to be messy. As you can see immediately, we know one connecting rod is definitely Dunsky. Yep. It's both. Both connecting rods are gone. Let me get you closer. Okay, here's the view. As you can see, this connecting rod, here is completely missing, right? The break right there. This is a problem right here. Jagged. It's not too bad. I think maybe muric acid and emery cloth, really fine sandpaper, probably smooth that journal out. I've done it before, it's worked. This is what causes it to stop right there. See? Hits the engine block right there inside. This area right there, small piece of the cylinder wall is busted, but I don't think that really affects it because the piston only goes up to there, you know, so it doesn't affect that at all. So that might be salvageable, but we won't really know if this is salvageable until I put this engine upside down, see? And if you take the engine upside down, take the sump cover off, look at it upside down, remove the camshaft, we can get a better idea of just how bad it is and whether or not this engine block is salvageable. because I think maybe the crankshaft is salvageable and all I need to do is get some connecting rods and put them back in, and it may be able to fix this engine. But we won't really know unless we take the bottom off too, you know. But I'm going to remove this right now just to check out that journal. Half inch. That journal's smooth. Perfect. So there we go. Now you can see the other end of that connecting rod in there. I'm gonna try to pry it out with my hand. I think I got it. Oh, I lost it.
Henry, why don't you use some needle nose pliers?
No, I don't need needle nose pliers. I can get it. I almost have it.
But Henry, you can get it right now.
No, I'm alright. I don't need it.
Hey, you can get it right now.
We're done. You're right. Forceps, nurse?
See, you should have got it when you could see it. Now you can't see it.
You leave me alone?
Henry, you talking to yourself?
Yes. That's what Papillon did in jail. If you don't talk to yourself, you'll go crazy. Oh, the hell with it. Forget it. Can't get it.
Told you to get it earlier, Henry.
So I put the drain plug back. I'm going to flip it upside down now.
Good luck, Henry. Don't hurt your back.
Hear all that clinking and clanking? So after careful inspection of the engine cover, the access inspection panel, the connecting rod went right into here. It's cracked right here. So this plate is Dunsky. Too bad too. Gasket's good. Maybe I could save it. I think I might have a plate somewhere else. I'm not sure. But either way, these plates are cheap on eBay. $15 or $20 something. So we'll see. I'm going to remove the sump bolts off of this now. Let's remove the sump. You know what that means? That's another $10 right there for a sump gasket. Actually, believe it or not, I'm using my brain now. If I remove the sump cover now, it'll be really difficult for me to get the flywheel off later. So I'm actually going to remove the flywheel. Remove the dipstick. Leave this your dipstick. Yeah, now it's going to be easier to remove the flywheel, which I have to do anyway to get the crankshaft out. I gotta remove this plastic grass air isolator mesh thing. 4 torque screws. I bought this just for this. It's a 1 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch socket. I'm going to use my DeWalt impact, see if it comes off. I doubt it. How about that, huh? DeWalt. Cool. Mucho cool. Crowbar and a sledgehammer. Find a good spot for it. Is there ever a really good spot for it? Usually around the I have a feeling I messed something up. I didn't have the threads down good enough, so I kind of messed up the bolt. But I just whacked it. I think it came off. Here we go. And the keyway is sheared. That could have been from me banging, or it could have been something else. Keyway is sheared. And I'm going to flip it back the other direction again. Okay, now I'm going to take the sump off. Half inch.
Sunday morning, mate. We're trying to sleep.
So that was my British friend Andy. Of course, he's like the mayor of the area, of the neighborhood. He needs to know what's going on, who's screwing who, who's moving in, who's moving out. He needs to know everything. And in turn, he comes and talks to me about it. So another half hour blown just like that, screwing around talking to Andy. Anyway, so here we go. Holy cow. There be the sump. Governor gear looks good. So this part here, this part of the engine block is cracked. Where the camshaft goes into, it's cracked. As such, the oil slinger is stuck. See? It's crooked. Crooked and stuck. So I don't think this is repairable because this part here is a crack here and a crack there. It's part of the sump. So definitely can't use the sump. Sump is done. I mean, you could always buy another sump. As a matter of fact, I might even have another sump. I'm not sure. But that's, you pretty much can't use that. Here is the camshaft. Camshaft looks good. Good lobes. Oh, I take it back. The other part is in there. Camshaft is busted in half. Camshaft is Dunsky. So, sump is busted. Camshaft is Dunsky. It's not looking good, fellers. Not looking good at all. Here we go. There is the crankshaft. Like I said, the crankshaft looks okay. The journal on the bottom one is very good. See? Very good. Journal over here is good up to here. And then it's very, very rough over here. That could be filed down. Question is, do you want to file it down? You know? Maybe this crankshaft is okay. Pieces. 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 Uh-huh. The yeah, there's a piece of the there's a big chunk of the engine block is off. I don't think this is repairable, fellas. Huge chunk of it is gone. That's part of the engine wall right here. The other part of the crank camshaft is stuck in this hole over here. The tappets are in the way. And both cylinder wall seems to be okay, but yeah, this part over here really bothers me. I'm going to take you off the tripod and show you. So here's a top view of it. Right here is that camshaft, the other part of it. And what we want to look at is right there. See that? That's the piece that broke off. A big chunk right in there. You guys see that? That's not good. So I think the rest of the engine looks okay, but I honestly don't think it's worth fixing because you don't know if that part there that's missing is going to affect it long term, you know? So I was able to get the remaining part of that camshaft out of there, right? That's the other part of the camshaft. And look what I found. So look at the hole as to where the camshaft was. Yep, that's trashed. So now the sump and the engine block is damaged beyond repair. So you know what this means, fellas? That's right. This engine is done. So now that we know this engine's Dunsky, now I've got 4 tractors without engines. How about that? Isn't that great? So I'm going to take this all apart more than it is right now. You know, I got a starter, I got piston and rings, got good heads, tins, exhaust pipe, original carburetor for opposed twin, flywheel. You know, I've got good parts here. Starter, so I've got good parts. I'll take this apart in my next episode, you know, for a teardown. But to find out today that this engine is Dunsky is disappointing news, of course, because you know, I love these engines. They're fantastic, and if I was able to, you know, rebuild one, it really would have been good, you know, because these engines are really nice. I don't know if this crankshaft is salvageable. It's this journal over here is in pretty bad shape. It would take a lot to get it smooth. Definitely a lot more than, you know, smooth like this, you know. So it'll be difficult to get that done. There's too many parts that are busted anyway, you know. Crankshaft, camshaft, oil slinger, sump, engine block. I mean, they're all toast, all of it. So this was a pretty catastrophic break, you know, of both connecting rods. It's sloshing around during the break, damaged everything else, you know. You could tell that a lot of pressure and trauma was put onto the camshaft to cause it to break in half like that. And because of that sloshing around, it destroyed the 2 areas where the camshaft sits, you know. So a lot of force was right at that camshaft as well. But, alright, well, that was today's episode of finding out exactly what was wrong with this 20.5 horsepower Briggs opposed twin engine. And we found out that, you know, both connecting rods were blown, causing damage to the camshaft as well as the surrounding engine block and sump. So, you know, I'm going to tear all this apart, salvage the parts, put it somewhere, and then I guess push this tractor back into my garage too. So that's this one, as well as my MTD Cub Cadet that we had 2 blown engines, don't have any more engines to put on them to repower. So I'll just have to, you know, wait and see. You know, I always come up with an engine or 2 here and there. You know, it'll come. But in the meantime, I'll work on my other outstanding things, such as my snowblowers. Anyway, thanks a lot for following me along this teardown of a 20.5 opposed twin Briggs engine. I'll see you guys next time on Mowers and Blowers.
See you guys next time on Mowers and Blowers.
Hey guys, support my channel, buy a sticker. Also follow me on Instagram at Mowers Blowers. Check out my website, mowersblowers.com.
See you guys on my next project. Have a great day.